So for the past year, I've been seeing a lot of these videos about people quitting social media, and as a content creator, I kind of felt like it was something I should do. I started out with the light phone, getting rid of social media on my phone and pretty much the internet in general, and this just kind of felt like the next evolution. So a couple months ago, I decided that I was just going to get off social media completely. However, when I started thinking about how this was going to work, the first thing I realized is that, well, I make my entire living off of social media. So at least with YouTube, if I quit YouTube, even if it was just for a week or a month, we're talking about hundreds, thousands of dollars that I would lose, and was like, where am I going to make that money up from? So the next step in my plan was like, okay, we're going to revise this, and it's going to be like, I'm going to delete all of my social media except for YouTube. And this went fine at first. I deleted Instagram. That was the first one I got off. And that was probably the best step because I would say Instagram and TikTok are the worst. I've thankfully never been on TikTok. I'm never going to be. But yeah, I've heard that it's really terrible and extremely addictive. And Instagram is honestly becoming a lot like TikTok with Reels, and YouTube is trying to do the same thing. So I don't know. It's just all a nightmare. But anyways, I permanently deleted my Instagram account, which was hard because I had like 2,500 subscribers, something like that. And I put a lot of work into it. I had all of these comics up there. But I just decided like it was time, to like detach myself in any way possible. So I deleted Instagram, I deleted Quora, I deleted Pinterest, I deleted Facebook. That was another big one because I had a lot of friends on Facebook. I also had a lot of pictures and videos and stuff like that. And just FYI, these platforms are legally required to give you an option to download your data. So it's kind of a pain in the ass, like you have to store it on your computer or on Dropbox or on an external hard drive. But, you can get your data, and supposedly they delete it. Or at least that's what I thought. But anyways, I deleted Pinterest, I deleted Reddit, I deleted LinkedIn. I probably deleted 10 different profiles, maybe more because I had some duplicates that I didn't even realize that I had. So anyways, I was like to ground zero. I had nothing except for YouTube. And the thing that I realized pretty quickly is that it really didn't make that much of a difference because, first of all, as long as you have one social media platform, you can still scroll. And even if you don't have a social media platform, there's still like the internet, there's like talking to Chat GPT and like researching things and looking up products, and you don't need social media for any of that. So it was still a struggle, there's still plenty of potential for distraction. And then the other thing that I realized is that just because you log out and delete your account from social media doesn't mean that your account stops existing. Like these social media companies claim that they delete your data, but it was very clear to me immediately that first of all, if you log in within 30 days, your account is still there. And then sometimes if you log in after that, like your account is still there. So one day I was trying to use Grok AI. I just wanted to see like what it would be like because I use it for researching and sometimes for coding and stuff like that, or Chat GPT. So anyways, I go to try to use Grok, and somehow it like automatically logs me into Twitter, and it like creates my Twitter account, or like loads all the data again, and like everything was there. This was like after 30 days when they're supposed to have deleted my account. And it was just like one of those one-click things where I clicked sign in with Google or something like that, and it had attached my account to Google. And so I don't know, you just wonder like, can I even delete my social media accounts? I don't think so. I think these companies are just gonna like hold on to data forever. And it's the same thing with other places. Like I mean, honestly, you can even go to other social media platforms like Instagram, and you don't even have to be logged in. Like there's this thing where if you try to scroll or if you try to click on a post, it'll come up with a login option. But then if you can learn things like if you right click on the post and you say open in a new tab, you can still see the post. And it's a little bit better not being logged in because then you can't get sucked into like the infinite scroll. It'll literally stop you from scrolling if you're not logged in, which is nice. But like I said, on YouTube, you don't have to be logged into YouTube to scroll on YouTube. And you certainly like with e-commerce stores, you don't have to be logged in there either. So I don't know, man. I think a lot of these videos about people quitting social media are really unrealistic and probably not true, to be honest. I think just from a practical aspect, it's impossible to quit social media unless you like live out in a cabin in the middle of the woods, and you have no internet connection. I think honestly that would be like the ideal for me, is to like live out in a cabin or my van in the middle of the woods and just have internet access like once a week. That to me seems like a really nice way to live, because then you don't have to deal with the constant distraction. And part of the problem with internet addiction and social media addiction is like everything is kind of paired together so closely. So like your work, like you go to check your email for something you actually need for a legitimate reason, and then you see something, I don't know, an email from a friend or a coworker, or I don't know, some opportunity or something, and then that takes you to a website, and then it's like it's really hard to determine where the distraction starts, because usually it starts with something that actually has a legitimate reason for you to click click on it, and then it just takes you down this rabbit hole, and it's not impossible to figure out like where you need to stop. But when it happens all the time, especially if you're like a content creator or someone like me, where you're spending time on social media or on the internet or in front of a computer because you have to, it just drains you, this constant potential of distraction. So that's the first part of it. The second part of social media and internet addiction is that it's like, it's not so much the apps, but it's just the world we're living in. Like there are just more and more problems that people are dealing with. For me personally, it's just like 4 years ago, I stopped going to the doctor because I just realized that I could heal most of my issues naturally, and I had some really great success with it, like curing my allergies and asthma and everything. And it's just like everyone around me is still kind of on this old train of thinking that they have to go to the doctor to solve things, and I don't know, just like there's just so many problems. Like everyone is sick, everyone is like obese or has mental health problems or ADHD, or they're taking this med, that med, they have high blood pressure, and everything just keeps getting worse, and health is just a microcosm of that. Like I'm living at home with my mom right now, and she has serious health problems. She had her gallbladder removed like 10 and 15 years ago, and so she has a really hard time digesting things, and this problem is just like snowballing, and the medical system is doing absolutely nothing for her, and they just keep giving her like round after round of antibiotics, and now she's having all these like dental problems of like having to have these extremely invasive, painful surgeries to her jaw every time she gets an infection. And it's like, this is why people are addicted to social media and the internet. It's not, I mean, it's like half of it is like the addictiveness of the apps, and then the other half of it is just like all of this like crazy ass shit that's going on in the world. Just like, and then you walk into a grocery store and everything is garbage in there except for the few small things in the organic section. It's like even the high quality grocery store that I go to, which is a little more premium, called Wegmans in my area, it's like now they're trying to be BJ's, and they're putting like all of this just garbage in the front of the store, like discount, Wheaties, like generic brand Wheaties made with highly genetically modified, hybridized, no nutrition garbage. And then you just see all the people who are overweight and health problems, and they're like teetering around, and you can see that they're in chronic pain, hair is falling out, going gray. It's just insane, And I honestly don't know how to deal with it. I really don't. The only way that I know how to deal with it is to like get into my van. This is why I'm working so hard to like build out my van, is because like I just have to get away from all this crazy bullshit. Like it's just a hard period for me right now because I have the van, but it is hot and hell as hell in here right now. So I'm gonna put the fan in next, and then some fold out windows so I can get some airflow in here, and then it'll really start to be like I might be able to spend some nights in here. And yeah, the situation of living with my mom has been really, really difficult the past few years because we just keep going farther and farther away from each other. And I know that like this is something that everyone is going through, whether it's like politics or health or I don't know, philosophy, just practical ways of living. Everyone is like, I think it's like because we're living in the internet, we develop all these different ideologies, and then It's like you don't even know the people that you're living with anymore. And it's exhausting, to try to live with someone who doesn't understand you and they feel like you don't understand them and you have completely different versions of what reality you're living in. There's just other things like just so many people are like on their smartphones now. You see them like bent over and just like they've got the earbuds in and just like it's really hard to connect with people. You try to talk to people, a lot of people, and they just sort of like look at you like you're a 12-legged space bug. But I don't know. Every time I get in the van, I just feel so happy. The van life was like the best decision of my life, even though I haven't 100% gotten there yet. Van life and like the light phone, getting away from smartphone addiction was huge, but it's still a struggle. I get depressed when I wake up in the morning. Some of it is practical, some of it is emotional. The practical things are like it's freezing cold in my mom's house. She has central air and she keeps it, or at least to me, it feels cold because I'm a skinny little beanpole. But anyway, so I wake up every day, I'm like freezing cold, and then I'm freezing cold all day long. And then obviously I'm living with someone who I'm having constant disagreements with, and I feel like they're being tortured by the medical system and not helped, not given the help they need to actually heal. And then I just read 1984. This is a very rambly video, but I just read 1984, the graphic novel, and there's this part in the end where the character Winston, he's been through like so much trauma with this like abusive, paranoid, controlling system that at the end he just learns to love Big Brother because it's too much work to resist, and the system has created too much fear and trauma for him to resist anymore. So he ends up feeling like he loves the control. He loves to be controlled, and he ends up in the end of the book. He writes 2 + 2 = 5. So he's like fully been brainwashed into thinking that this is good for him. To live like this, and that's how I feel like with my mom, with my dad, with honestly my entire family, a lot of people who I used to be close friends with. I have a few close friends who kind of like understand what's going on in terms of the manipulation and the lies and the movement away from like what's natural towards this like machine AI reality. We're all living in the metaverse and we have our stupid little avatars. And yeah, but the people who understand that are becoming far and few between. They're the people in the middle who kind of like understand what's going on, but they're either like too entrenched in their lives, or too afraid to like fully go off of the beaten path, the assembly line of life. So it's really lonely, there are a lot of problems that I'm hoping van life will solve. Like, just I feel like van life people have this personality of being anti-system and more natural, liking to be outdoors, not getting sucked into technology addiction. And I feel like as I travel, and I can be places that don't have Wi-Fi, it'll get better, because some days I find myself like just spending like 2 hours wasting time on the internet, not necessarily on social media, but like researching parts of the van build that I'm not even at yet, because I'm like, my brain's trying to get me forward, like out of this bad situation that I find myself in. But yeah, it's just the loneliness, the trauma, the stress. Another thing that's going on right now for me is I had I went to visit my brother and sister-in-law about a year ago, and there was like this huge blow up argument over something just really stupid. It was like, I guess she would be my mother-in-law. We were out late and we were dropping her off, and my mom wanted us to wait for her. But my brother and sister-in-law got really offended at this, and they didn't think it was necessary or whatever. I don't know. It's just such a little stupid thing. And then in the car, just things just like went crazy, and my sister-in-law ended up jumping out of the car and running off into the night, and then my brother went like ballistic, and he was just like jabbing his finger at my face and yelling at me, and oh man. And then so like he just sent a letter like a year later. He waited a freaking year to like express his feelings again, and so now it's just like opened up this whole like drama again. I'm so over it. I'm so over the freaking drama. All this bullshit that, I don't know, just like the elections. I don't really get into politics or follow politics other than just knowing the basic headlines of what's happening, but it's just the facade of like thinking that we're in a democracy. What a joke. I don't know. People are like, oh, you should vote. And I'm like, you think it matters who you vote for? It's just a puppet show. It's a puppet show for the sociopathic lizard people who are controlling the world. Oh, man. That's another thing is like, you remember that whole theory about the lizard people and Alex Jones and whatever? I remember hearing about that and just thinking, this is just so ridiculous on top of all the other ridiculous things that are happening. But then my the naturopath that I work with, she sent me this PBS special one day about lizards, reptiles, and like human evolution, and it was actually really interesting because you see that there was this guy and he had like thyroid issues, like I have thyroid issues, and like all the symptoms that he developed were like reptile symptoms. It was like dry skin. He wasn't able to regulate his body temperature, and so he would have to like go into a freezer to like cool himself down, or go out into the sun to warm himself up. And then he lost like all of his hair, and I'm like, God, this sounds exactly like what I'm going through. And anyways, so I kind of put the pieces together, and I was like, wow, this reptile theory thing is actually like pretty reasonable, because you realize, you look at people like Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, what's happening to them? They have this like sociopathic, like lack of warmth look in their eyes. With Elon Musk, he's losing his hair. I think I don't know, he's like covered it up with some plugs or whatever now, but yeah, Jeff Bezos, another person that was going bald, and just no emotion, no human empathy whatsoever. And so, yeah, we kind of are being controlled by lizards. This is the whole 1% thing. It's like the 1% are just like this sociopathic, like business first, make money over everything, control humanity, no warmth type of vibe. And this is, yeah, it's probably the root problem, honestly, of everything, is the fact that 1% of the world controls more wealth than the rest of the 99%. And yeah, I mean, that could certainly drive people into social media addiction, because it creates poverty, it creates depression, it creates feelings of humiliation because you're working so hard on things and you're getting what feels like not enough, in return for your work, and not just on a level of like pride, but on a level of like just survival, sustainability. I think a lot of people feel like what they're doing is just not sustainable because they're not being paid enough. And it's not because they're not good enough. In a lot of circumstances, it's because half of the world's potential income is being gobbled up by 1% of the population. So, oh man, I don't know. It's just frustrating, I guess, is what I want to say to anyone who's struggling with social media addiction or internet addiction and feels like they've tried everything and nothing works. And it's like, it's not you. You're not lazy. It's just like, it's the world, and there are a lot of problems, and it's verging on being impossible to deal with for a lot of people, especially people who have pre-existing trauma and, other health issues. So don't beat yourself up. I see people trying to like deal with this by getting devices, like the light phone or e-ink tablets. I work on a e-ink monitor, and it definitely helps, but it's just a lot to deal with. So the only solution really is just to continue trying to minimalize your life, like for me, van life, going with a simpler phone, simpler screen, and hopefully eventually being able to go through longer and longer periods where I don't have access to Wi-Fi at all. That would be really nice. But yeah, really the only other tip that I have is just to breathe. I think it's really helpful when I'm kind of feeling like I'm on the verge of going off into some crazy rabbit hole, on the computer, to just like stop, just like close my eyes and just breathe for a breath or two, and it helps create a boundary to prevent you from instantly going down that rabbit hole. And it doesn't always work, sometimes you're just overwhelmed and it's like, what are you gonna do? Sometimes you're tired, you're just too tired to resist. But yeah, it's a good strategy, and we'll get there in terms of van life. But I hope you all are doing well, and I wish you the best in terms of resisting the matrix and all this other technology bullshit that we have to deal with now that we shouldn't have to deal with. But thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace.